international loving.
International loving.
International something. Something. International loving. International loving.
International loving.
International loving. Something national. Fine girl, no pimples. I love a pretty smile and I love a pretty face. Beautiful and she's simple. She walk the walk and yeah, she walk it with grace. Pure love from the get-go.
The concept and purpose of dating has grossly been misunderstood. Most Christians even wonder if dating is biblical or not. Well, dating is actually a recent concept which emerged following human civilization. It became popularized during the period of sexual revolution. But of course, it is a welcome development. Women and dating history. Being single is a luxury our mothers and grannies didn't have. Centuries ago, every woman's priority was getting married, and the sooner the better. In the Middle Ages, women shortly before approaching the age of 18 would be given out for marriage, after which she spends the next 25 years in childbearing while trying to escape death narrowly. When she's past the age of childbearing, she spends the rest of her life caring for her family and farming. Centuries later, women got better, as women in colonial America were finally able to inherit their husband's property, thus providing some of the first examples of American female autonomy. While unmarried women would strive to lead a quiet life in order not to be perceived as a witch. Finally, with the industrialization of the 19th century, women were finally able to leave their home in order to make some cool cash. Those who came from rich family needed not to worry. Daddy foots the bills. Until the 20th century, when car was invented, women were finally given more autonomy to drive, own a car, and meet whoever they want to meet. Sexual promiscuity increased during this period. It was as though their sexual drive was constipated all along. This was about the year 1920. However, women were yet to be incorporated into the labor force, but not until the 1960s, following sexual revolution and disarray caused by the World War. Considering men went to war, it became expedient for women to be incorporated into the labor force. Women could easily get a job, and trust women, they went for it. One could say they ate another fruit from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, as they suddenly realized they could provide for themselves, own their own houses, and have sex outside of marriage. So they concluded that marriage was unnecessary. During these times, contraceptives pills were invented and became rampant. This brought about all shades of feminism, which has become fully matured in our world today. One may ask, was the result of the empowerment or enlightenment bad? Of course not. I liken it to a child who was constantly being flogged by his father each time he did something his father considered wrong, until the day his dad lost his hand in an accident. Then he decided to do both the good things and the bad things his father once flogged him for, considering his father no longer has hands to discipline him. The Enlightenment was good in that it empowered women and gave them freedom, but they were quick to forget that freedom requires responsibility. The word responsibility means not answerable to authority or counsel. Women's freedom led to irresponsibility, which is summarized in the assertion, do what makes you happy. It sounds right, but that ain't right. As a matter of fact, so many things have gone wrong due to that statement. Did you know how many people died simply because Adolf Hitler decided to do what makes him happy? Did you know every year over 40 million babies are aborted because some persons who were dating decided to do what makes them happy? What is the difference between dating and courtship? Well, courtship is a period of development towards an intimate relationship wherein a couple gets to know each other and decide if they will be in an engagement followed by marriage. Whereas dating is a stage of relationship in humans whereby two people meet socially with the aim of assessing each other's suitability as a partner in an intimate relationship. A renowned 2 and he states, courtship ordinarily begins when a single man approaches a single woman by going through the woman's father, and then conducts the relationship with the woman under the authority of her father, family, or church, whichever is most appropriate. Courtship always has marriage as its direct goal. Dating, a more modern approach, begins when either the man or the woman initiates a more than a friend relationship with the other, and then they conduct their relationship outside of any oversight or authority. Dating may or may not have marriage as its goal, unquote. Courtship and dating actually overlap in that courtship seems to be a more primitive but formal approach to dating, whereas dating is a more modern and personal approach. Therefore, one could say dating is a modernized form of courtship, as we hardly see people who practice the former approach these days. Although most people in the UK use the word courtship rather than dating, so sometimes these two words are used interchangeably, as they consider the difference negligible. Now, what is the goal or purpose of dating? It is said that when the purpose of a thing is not known, abuse is inevitable. Just as it is with sex, it is good, but when done outside the confines of marriage, it can only be destructive. It is sad how most people date for wrong reasons. Among many reasons are loneliness, because their friends are dating, for sex, because someone wants to date them, insecurity. Ideally, the goal of dating is marriage, not for testing one's sexual compatibility. See my article on sex for better understanding. Sadly, it is fast becoming a permit card for premarital sex. Most people do not even know what dating means, they just enter into it. Such irresponsible dating lifestyle has subtly resulted to irredeemable damages, and if not quickly arrested, the world will be an unhappy place to live in, because the effect actually goes beyond us. Finally, what about having sex while courting? Sex is good. Scientists say sexual climax is the most pleasurable human experience, and for this reason alone, it is good to avoid having a taste of it before marriage, because it raises the threshold of pleasure, which makes it impossible for one to be satisfied or find other things as pleasurable. Therefore, sex is addictive. The Bible only is against sex outside the boundaries of marriage. In a nutshell, God hates premarital sex, not because it will make him any less of who he is, but because he manufactured you, and only the manufacturer knows the best condition for his product to work or function. God knows sex is fun and pleasurable. Of course, he created it, but doing the right thing at the wrong time always ends up a disaster. Research findings have shown most couples who divorced had sex before marriage, and shortly after the sexual revolution between 1960 to the year 2017, over 40 million babies have been aborted due to premarital sex. The manufacturer says in his manual, "All things are lawful for me, but not all things are expedient. All things are lawful for me, but not all things edify." So the question should be, does sex edify? It's not about going to hell or heaven, but whether it makes you better or worse. This video was brought to you by OE Musin.